If you'll pray us in here today.
No problem.
Okay, super. Anytime you're ready.
Father, we thank you for being able to gather together like this over the internet, Father, that your blessing are going over these internet lines or the cyberspace, just like all of the other garbage that's out there. Father, thank you so much for allowing us to use this medium. Father, bless everybody that's here today, and bless everybody who has joined with us in the past. Father, in all things, we humbly come to you for wisdom and for insight on all new things. Father, help us to just stay on a righteous path and a humble path at all times. Father, we thank you in all things in the name of your precious Son, Yeshua.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dwayne. Well, it's my pleasure to have you on tonight. I'm having trouble maintaining the conference center. You can see me on, if you can see me, you're on the conference center. It keeps going off because it says my oh, look at that. I didn't comb my hair. Because my bandwidth is a little limited for running two of these clients on here, but we'll do the best we can. And if we're going along and the conference center goes off, just please inform me if you can. Let's see, how could you do that? Well, if I don't notice it, give me a call. Yeah, or text me on the phone, and I'll try to get that as soon as I can. Let me introduce to you Commander Lee. Evidently, this little place is our new Yahad office here. This tiny 10 by 10 bedroom with junk everywhere. I should say junk. But here we are back in the little room again. So I have to take a refreshing drink and think about what we're going to do next. We have a storage space. It's full. There's room to sit at a desk in there. That's all. Stuff's piled to the ceiling. Went there today, tried to find something. It was futile. But at least it's air conditioned. There's a place to sit down. There's electric in there.
Lights anyway.
Lights. In fact, I think maybe tomorrow might just do this from there.
Can't do it.
You can't? Why not?
No,
Can I use my phone?
Not with all the, you have all the aluminum around you. I doubt if you can get signal. No, you can't get a signal from there.
Can't get a signal in there.
Not even your phone.
Can we put a remote camera in there?
And record it maybe, but
Okay.
you can't get any signal out of there. It's like a Faraday cage.
A Faraday cage. Last time we were together, I was describing to you a little about John the Baptist in the context of his clothing and what he ate. And we used extensively Josephus and the Dead Sea Scrolls for that. And I believe I gave you a link to a couple of the Dead Sea Scrolls that we particularly want to use, as well as the Slavonic or Aramaic Josephus. Now, I'll tell you what, I can give that link again if you need it. But if you have your book on the Dead Sea Scrolls, we might, we'll want to get into that instead. Hold on a minute, I'll get you a link to at least those other two texts. Let's see. I've got so much stuff out here on the internet now that I almost just have to go through it to try to find anything. What that would be. I don't suppose anybody remembers what it was from last time. I can't even remember.
Those links that I thought you were going to post on the chat for Zoom last week never did come up on the chat.
All right. Let me see if I can find right now. I'll find them using the search engine. Well, you find My Slavonic Josephus pops up on the first page of Google. That's a good sign. And here, if you're on Zoom, I'm going to send that link to you. And we want to find the Damascus document as well.
Great, it did come up this time.
You have it? Oh, from that link.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. All right, on the conference center here, I just put a link to my redaction of the Slavonic Josephus text. Remember last week I mentioned that the Slavonic is a translation of the first book of the Jewish Wars. Josephus originally wrote that in Aramaic for who he said were the barbarians. And what he was talking about there in code language was the Jews in the dispersion outside of Israel, so that they could know what was going on in Israel during the time of the war, 66 to 73. And what is in the Slavonic Josephus, which I should call the Aramaic because it's a translation of the Aramaic, are descriptions of New Testament characters that we don't have in the Greek version of Josephus that we retain today. So these are not in there. And we want to take a look at the Damascus document too. We can find that in the Jewish Virtual Library. And I'm going to send you a link to that. I wonder, somebody's got their microphone on, but if you could shut it off for a little bit. Thank you. Yeah, we're getting along here in just a second. Here's the second link. And there's just one more we need. The community rule, Dead Sea Scrolls. There it is. Remember that the community rule, of course, in Hebrew, it's Serek Yahad. So we've got the word Yahad right in this, the title of this scroll. There's one link, and for you on Zoom, here's another one. Now, if you want to look those up, that's good, or have them ready. I would have to ask you to look through it and find the column number for each of the references that I have. But I wanted to mention right now in regards to Sukkot, we have made a decision on that. And we're going to have Sukkot in Charlottesville, Virginia, just outside of Charlottesville, in the Weigel Homestead. Charlottesville is close to Washington, D.C., and just about everything in that area in regards to the Civil War as well. You can go visit while you're there. This Sukkot is going to be a more relaxed one. We're going to have teaching there, but we're also going to leave a lot of free time. We're going to be close to an urban area, so that's going to be great. Yet at the same time, we're going to be in on an island outside of the urban area. So we have a large barn that's been completely refurbished and made ready for us to have Sukkot there, including all the bells and whistles, including in the barn itself. There are lodging quarters for people that need them inside. Else we will basically be using tents again. And you might be concerned about if you want to come in by air or something, you won't have a tent. We have tents. We're working right now to get them all in that one place. And the weather should be quite mild by that time. That's one of the reasons we picked this particular spot. We're going to do something a little different here for this Sukkot and for this event. We're going to charge up front, if you can afford to pay it, $80. That goes for the entire week of food and lodging. We have made that as inexpensive as possible just to cover our expenses. We're trusting in Yahweh for the rest of the money we need to put it on. But as the other events we've had, it's going to be a great event. It's going to bring us closer together. The theme of the event is surviving the Messianic Essene. Well, I'll tell you. I'll give you a link if I haven't already. I gave the conference center the link. I put a little website up about it. It doesn't have much information, but more than I can think of right now. That link is www.tabsinva.us. tabsinva.us. Tabernacles in Virginia.us, and there's your link. And I'll put another link on here. The conference center. Well, hello, Jeffrey. Hello, Teresa. Hello, Enola. Great to have you on tonight. Yes, I will get to it in a minute. And again, if you're on the conference center, you know you are because you're going to be able to see me here. Won't that be great? I'm getting kicked off of there every once in a while, so let me know. If I'm kicked off, give me a call or send me a text. I'm going to be looking at that and making sure that you get what you need here. So this is the second in a series of characters from the New Testament in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And as I described before, consensus scholars and churchmen tell us that this is impossible, that these scrolls date back to 150 years before Messiah came. They use paleography, which is more of an art than a science, in order to date these scrolls. That is to say, they look at the handwriting on the scrolls, and from the handwriting itself, they determine what date that scroll was written. Now, to me, that's complete guesswork. As I've looked into paleography, there are a couple good ones, but by and large, it really doesn't tell us anything. What gives us a much better idea of what is in an ancient text, especially if there's historical information in there, is try to find the history that it connects with. The internal evidence of a text is the best method by which you can find when it was written, and therefore, if you find when, then maybe you can find a historical reference to verify your date. They also say because of the carbon dating, there we go, carbon dating going back to 200 BC up to maybe 100 BC, and some of them about 60 BC, which was a monumental time in the history of Israel. That's when the first Roman invasion was, 63 BC. There was writing about that. They can carbon date the scrolls themselves, which were primarily animal skins, but they can't carbon date the writing on the scrolls. These scrolls were used over and over again. They were collected and used down through long, long periods of time, and often they would take a scroll and scrape off the writing and write over it. That's called a palimpsest. Palimpsest. A palimpsest is when you take an animal skin that is prepared for writing, scrape the writing off of it, and write something else. One of the cool things about palimpsests is that not only do you get an ancient text that you can read, but if you use certain lighting on the text, you can also see what was under it. And we have a number of texts that have been under a primary text that have been much older than that primary text that we're able to see with lighting conditions that are able to pierce through the top layer of writing and into the bottom layer. We can't help but find, if we read these scrolls and we understand where they are, the writing is located from, that John the Baptist seems to be one of the most intriguing characters to take the place of the teacher of righteousness in the scrolls. As I mentioned before, the scrolls don't mention many names. Very few names are found there. Epithets or euphemistic titles are given to the people that they're writing about there, like teacher of righteousness, the lying spouter, the lion of wrath, etc., all through these scrolls. So we can't really say that the scrolls say John the Baptist did this or that. But again, if we look at the internal evidence and we place this in a historical context, then we have a very good chance of being able to identify characters in the scrolls by the writings of the historians of that day. Now, in that day, we only have one historical writer, and that's Flavius Josephus, a Jewish priest, a priest that was commissioned as the governor and military leader of Galilee in the 60s AD, not 1960, but 060. The one that mustered the troops together in Galilee to try to provide protection from the Romans, building walls around cities and making ready for war. Josephus was captured during this time. Let's see if we're still on with everybody. Disconnected, of course. Whew. This is interesting. I'm sorry, I've lost the conference center. I'm going to try to get it back again. There we go. It's going to be like this tonight, I think.
Oh, gonna make a comment.
Yes. What's
Baby.
this here?
Baby.
Oh my goodness. We've got a picture here of Julie Welch and her new baby. Elia. Right there.
Yeah.
Today. Today?
Yes, yes.
Yes, today. She said she was supposed to go in tomorrow.
She went in this morning.
I'll be darned. Well, look at that. That's one of our Yahad Shotarim, who we're going to make an elder pretty soon. Julie Welch. As far as the proximity of our description in the Bible of John the Baptist and the proximity or nearness of that to what we find in the scrolls, we have time and place because we figure that the Damascus document was written about 65 AD, not 150 BC. Only because the historic situations and the euphemistic names of the people in there match up perfectly with the people that we're dealing with about 60 to 65 AD. So time and place is one thing we have in common. We have the utilization of Isaiah chapter 40, verses 3 and following, a voice crying in the wilderness, "Prepare ye the way of Yahweh, make his path straight." They've always used this particular term or this phrase in order to bring the people of Yah to repentance, which was primarily of not much use, because they probably didn't. Thirdly, the belief in the destruction of the wicked by fire, but only the wicked. Of course, the perverse, throughout the scrolls and the rules, there's the talk of the perverse, and that we're to hate the perverse because they have chosen perversity over the goodness of Torah and the various injunctions that we have in Scripture that allow us to live free from coercion, live free from fear of our neighbor, and allows our neighbor to live without fear of us. So the wicked, according to their understanding, were to be destroyed by fire, primarily, as the angels came down during the 6th decade of the 1st century, and through that 7 years described in Revelation, the angels would come down and join them and destroy the perverse by fire, and their idea was the majority of Israel, including Gentiles and Greeks, would come on board with them, seeing the angels that had accompanied them to come and bring the retribution to Israel. Fourthly, there is an indictment there of the Jewish nation, both in the scrolls and in the words of John the Baptist. We know that the priests of the scrolls had been usurped in their priesthood in Jerusalem, and the priesthood in Jerusalem had was no longer a dynasty, but had become an appointed position where the appointee was determined by how much money he could pay to the king to get that position. And fifthly, there were priestly ties, both in John the Baptist, where the New Testament talks about that his father was a priest of, I think, the course of Abia. And in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they call themselves the sons of Zadok, the priests. They were the legitimate priesthood that should have been in Jerusalem at the time, but weren't. They had been usurped by a group of Levites, but Levites that were informed on what Torah should be by the Pharisees. That comes from the 1st century BCs. The Pharisees took over the temple, appointed their own priests, and told the priests what to do. And in the time that we're looking at, middle of the 1st century, that was still the case with those that had been usurped, living in wilderness, in camps, getting ready to fight against the perverse and the Romans, the Kittim, according to the way they spoke of the Romans. And finally, there was an expectation of messianic personages coming to rescue the nation, messiahs. Sometimes we get the impression in the Dead Sea Scrolls that there were more than one Messiah. There's a Messiah the king, Messiah the priest, Messiah the warrior, 3 different ones. As we get closer and closer to the date we're looking at here, in the scrolls, it becomes one Messiah primarily that one person is taking all three of those jobs, just like Jonathan did of the Maccabees some 100 years before, 200 years before, let's put it that way. So we have those 6 different connections between John the Baptist and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Once again, time and place, the utilization of Isaiah 40, the belief in the destruction of the wicked by fire, the indictment of the Jewish nation, and finally, the expectation of a Messiah or Messiah the King. There are differences as well, but significant differences are usually noted between the baptism of John the Baptist and the ritual ablutions, that is washings, referred to in 1QS, that is, sorry, 1QS, the community or Yahad rule, and the CD, the Manual of Discipline, or the Damascus document. There are various names. They're very confusing over names. Depending on the translator, each translator seems to give these texts different names. John the Baptist was giving baptism to everyone that came to him. Everyone, presumably only once. That was a great difference between the mikvah or mikvot of the covenanters. Are you going to be in trouble? Is that your new rabbit, or have you decided on a squirrel? Okay. Listen.
Oh,
He is listening to, who's that woman that's on all day on the radio? Kim Commando, instead of me. He should be listening to this lesson, as boring as it is. Because he's the commander here. Even I do what he says once in a while. There's a significant difference between the mikvot, that is the dunkings or the washings of the Yahad rule and the Damascus document, and that of what John seems to be doing, not only in the New Testament, but in the Slavonic Josephus. These baptisms were self-administered in the Yahad. They were performed daily. And not long ago, I did a lesson on the Qumran outhouse. Maybe you remember that. In the Qumran outhouse, which was found by James, his name is the name of a mountain in Israel. James. I was thinking that, but you know who I'm talking about. Tell me who it is. I've lost it right now. Anyway, he found the Qumran outhouse, and he was able to scrape up the dirt and analyze it inside that outhouse, including the coprolites. The coprolites, you know, we've got the Amalekites, the Hivites, the Hittites, and the coprolites. Coprolites? That, a coprolite is a petrified turd. They took the coprolites out of there and analyzed them, on a side note. And they found in there that these people that used this latrine were very, very infiltrated with every kind of parasite you could think of. So the conclusion was, in their ritual baths every day, remember, they would take their clothes off in the morning. They would put on a loincloth and a little shirt and linen and go out in the fields and work, or whatever they did for their job. They would come back about the fifth hour, and they would perform an ablution. That would be to go walking through a mikvah, a hole in the ground with water in it. Now, the best thing that they could have done was to have new water every day, but evidently that wasn't the case. And James Tabor Mount Tabor, right? That's a mountain?
That was,
okay. James Tabor.
Or backwards, it's called Robot.
Oh, you're right. Incredible. Well, anyway, Tabor says that the analysis of the coprolites was indicative that their mikvah, their bath, am I still on Zoom? Zoom! I'm looking, the conference center again has crashed, so I'm going to try it again. I know the discussion of coprolites, just like emeralds, is extremely interesting.
Oh, yeah. On the edge of my seat.
I'm sorry, I'm going to keep trying on this. The discussion of coprolites obviously is just as interesting as the discussion of emeralds, even golden emeralds. So what I'm saying is that evidently they didn't change the water out too much. Well, they didn't have much access to water out there in the desert. So you might be going through a bath with 274 other people during a day or more, picking up all kinds of parasites and everything else. But John's baptism was different. It was given to everyone once. These ablutions were self-administered. Scholars have been looking for the right place for evidence of John's baptism as opposed to the ritual ablutions or washings. Although the ritual ablutions of the community rule and the Damascus document took place within the sect, and it's the only place it could take place was within the sect on their New Jerusalem, which was, we understand, the Qumran community, which of course is in ruins today. John's baptism was outside of there. And as we spoke last time, John the Baptist is going out into the crowd of the perverse to call forth teshuvah from their perversity, calling them to change their minds, change their hearts, change their direction, and come back into the holiness and egalitarianism of the Torah. So he has to go out, and therefore, going out, he becomes ritually unclean. Remember the circles of holiness I have spoken of before. John the Baptist being in the highest circle of holiness inside Qumran, but outside, he comes into the lowest circle of holiness, same one I'm in. Whereas he goes among the crowds, Pharisees, Roman officers, rabble, they're all there, and he has to do his baptizing and his ministry outside of Israel. Does it in a place called Bethabara, which we didn't know its location until just recently. Bethabara has been found, where the Bible says there were plenteous waters there, and he had to maintain himself outside of Israel because obviously he was a criminal. He was a person that was wanted. He had called on the Herods to change and mend their ways, to move away from the marriage of incestuous marriages, especially niece marriage, which was really in vogue among all the Herodians of the time, all the kin of the kings, including Paul, who himself wanted to marry a person that might have been, his niece, the high priest's daughter. So the council of the community, which is called the many, when you see in your Damascus document, if you're going to read that, the many, we're talking about Levitical people within the council of the Yahad. And the priestly sector were main parts of the sex organization. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put a second computer up. My internet connection is unstable. I don't know why that is. This is really turning into a non-humorous lecture. Lee, would you mind going and getting that talking cat?
Okay, no problem.
We need a little comic relief here, I think. Has anybody ever had a talking cat? I had a cat. I loved him. He talked. I taught him to talk. Yes, he talked. Not only that, but he was clean. He would go to the bathroom on the toilet. That's right. He would get up on that toilet seat and go. And he spoke the word I taught him many, many times especially when he was hungry. That word was meow. I thought of meow because that was the name of his favorite food, meow mix. And I thought if he said meow, I would know to go get the food. It worked, except a horrible thing happened. I know a little bit about what you suffer when your pets die. It's a little bit, because I love that cat. He was eaten by a Florida panther. Horrible. Blood everywhere. We don't know what happened to him. It's probably in the stomach. And I hate to relate that to you, but just so you might think that, if you might think that I don't have the compassion for the death of animals, well, don't you think animals will be in the resurrection of the dead? I'm going to be able to say, kitty, 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 once again. See that little kitty, striped, tortoise-colored, living again. I couldn't live in a resurrected community without little kitty. And not to speak of Pretty Boy, my other little pet. There was a parrot, a little green-cheeked parrot. He said, pretty boy, pretty boy. He'd say, Miggy, 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 a lot of times too. I think I'm going to cry now. The many are the Leviticals. Then we have the priests. Two different orders there in the sex organizational structure. Both sectors, the priests and the many, came together, either in small groups, but often in one large group, depending on what they were to do. Excuse me. They had evening meetings. They had to have 10 present for minyan. A priest had to be present at every meeting, as well as a man interpreting the ordinances day and night. So two people were necessary, a person that could rightly interpret the scriptures, and a priest who could rightly do the sacramental ministry that needed to be done at the time. This latter one, this teacher, was probably a Levite as well, having Levitical blood from, I would imagine, the loins of Zadok. But I'm looking, as I look at the scrolls, I see Aaron is also highly approved in the scroll, so maybe him too. I don't know what he's doing out there, but you want to know where I'm from? Look right here. This is where my story begins. What were you doing out there? Sounds like you were shuffling cards. You playing poker out? Oh, toilet flushing. Well, how disrespectful. I don't know about you, Lee. Since you lost the rabbit, I think you've lost about everything. 10 men present, a Levite, priests. These meetings would go on every night. They would share in a special meal of holy food. We have no idea what the holy food was. Then they would recite their prayers. They would recite a prayer before the meal, where they would bless the actual food they were eating. And then afterwards, they said another prayer. Well, it was a baruchah. They blessed Yahweh, their creator and provider, for his providence of that meal. And afterwards, they would discuss various topics, just like we do in the Yahad. They were not completely like-minded. They allowed anybody to speak that was within the confines of their community, and that none spoke until that one was finished. When that one was finished bringing forth a topic or exegeting or interpreting something, then the next one could speak, or somebody might ask a question, but they were not to be interrupted when they were speaking. Secondly, when they come together in one body, certain occasions, and here's a quote from the CD, Damascus document, and when the order is given to gather the whole assembly together for dispensing justice, or for the council of the community, or for a convocation of war, they shall sanctify them for 3 days so that every member may be ready. See, members could become ritually unclean on occasion. Under no circumstances were they allowed to attend those meetings. So there was a certain ritual they had to go through to keep themselves in a certain level of circle of holiness at all times. Of course, remember, this is ritual. This is not necessarily being clean. I don't see them out scrubbing in the mikvah with lava soap or anything like that, but it was ritual cleanliness. And thirdly, they would come together. There was an annual census. And here is another quote, again, this time from the Yahad rule. This is what they shall do year after year during all the time of the dominion of Belial, the swallower. The priests shall pass first in order, according to the degree of excellence of their spirits, one after another, and the Levites shall pass after them. And thirdly, all the people shall pass in order, one after the other, and thousands and hundreds and the 50s and tens, that every person of Israel may know that the place he must occupy in the Yahad of Elohim according to the eternal plan. So they had an annual meeting where they assigned responsibilities and ranks and so forth. Remember, these are people in this particular situation that are living in community. It's not true that all Essenes lived in communistic communities at all. Josephus tells us that they were dispersed throughout Israel, and we could go farther than that and know they were dispersed in Syria and Egypt, and perhaps even in the Roman and Greek worlds as well. There are indications as to that. This initiation or utilization program by the conventional Essenes, please understand they're conventional Essenes like us, and there are sectarian Essenes like the Qumranites. Different, very different. Same basic text, but a whole different mode of operation. Conventional Essenes was accepted not only by the initiation process, accepted not only by the convention, but also by the Qumranites, the warlike priests. If we look at 1QS, that's the Yahad rule, 6, column 6 is important for this. We compare it with Josephus' description of the conventional Essenes in his War of the Jews. He shows this to be the case. They're very similar. The anti-establishment Essenes brought this practice into the New Covenant when they joined it. So there's a joining of two factions, and some would say that the militaristic faction broke off, especially after the Roman invasion of 63 BC, and even more, the Roman invasion of 66 AD that's described fully, not only in Josephus, who was a general there, but also in the revelation of John in your Bible. Here's the first level from the Yahad rule of initiation. And remember, what John the Baptist is doing out there is initiating, going to the perverse, to the heathen, to the lost. And what does he cry? Shuv, shuv, turn around, change your way, change your mind. The New Testament portrays him as being killed by Herod, and then all of a sudden is raised up another person that goes out and says exactly the same thing. Shuv, for the kingdom of Yahweh is at hand, and that is the person we know as Jesus Christos, or Yahshua HaMashiach. The postulant, the first level. Josephus did this level, or tried to, at the age of 17. That's the age that these people went to college. He went to college at the Qumran community, didn't like it there. It says, and everyone from Israel who freely volunteers to join the council of the Yahad shall be examined on his intelligence and his deeds by the one who is the overseer, the mevaker, at the head of the many. And if he is suited to the discipline, he will bring him into the covenant that he may be converted to the truth and turn away from perversity. He shall instruct him in all the ordinance of the community. Look, why are we even concerned with Essenes? Because what they had, we need in our age, more than anything. We need an activist movement that is either going to bring the perverse into a state of holiness, which I understand can be impossible in some cases, or we're to fight their infiltration and their takeover of our borders, language, and culture. You see, this is very appropriate to today. And the first steps in the initiation, those who volunteer, are to come into the discipline to learn how to turn from their perversity and turn unto good things, turn unto beneficence, turn from perversity to scriptural holiness. They make it through that first year. The second level is then, we might call a novice, the second year, when he later comes to present himself to the many. They shall all consider his case, and according to whatever fate decrees, following the decision of the many, he shall either approach or depart. And when he approaches the council of the Yahad, he shall not touch the pure food of the many until he has been examined concerning his spirit and deeds, and until he has accomplished 1 full year. Also let him not mingle his property with that of the many. So we're talking about 2 years now. The person keeps their property. There is a significance in this holy food. One of the significances is if the proselyte or the novice was not able to keep the charge that he had chosen in those 2 years, he was put out of the community into the desert to fend for himself. That is, no food. It tells us in the rules that we're not to give those people any food. However, we're also told in the historian that they did. When that person had learned their lesson, to come back into the Yahad and follow the rules. No, personally, I'm not much for rules. That's why I'm at the lowest circle of holiness. But I can say this. I know the value of rules against perversity. And in this world today, what is tearing us apart? Perversity. In the church, what's tearing the church apart? Perversity. Perversity not only includes sexual immorality and perversity, certainly that's just a little bit of it. We're talking about perversity of the laws of Elohim, perversity of friendship, perversity of comradeship, perversity in business, perversity in personal relations, and certainly in the family. Talking about it all. We have to turn and change. That's what our faith is all about. People who would be perverse, that have undergone not only a teshuvah, a change of mind and heart, but also we undergo a certain discipline so that our perverse nature might be turned. The thing about rote learning is that if you do it enough, you're bound to do it for good. This is why the proverb says to teach your child in the way he should go, and he will not vary from it when he becomes older. Teach your child in the way he should go. We might extend that a little bit by saying, teach yourself the way you should go. Yes, I'm not in that higher circle of holiness, but I'm really glad with what's inside me to be where I am. Now, this could go right on to a section on discipleship and commitment. Okay. Now, all you need to do is ask Jesus into your heart. You'll be a new person, new creation, and the Torah will be written on your heart. How many have you seen with Jesus comes into their heart and the Torah written on their heart that have gone right back out, commencing the same old thing they did before? No discipline. The other thing that I've heard lately an awful lot here, the people are saying, Jesus paid it all. Jesus on the cross paid it all. And he tacked up the handwriting of ordinances so that we might not have to be lawful people, so that we might not have to be disciplined people, because after all, he died. So if he comes into our heart now as a spirit and writes the rules on our hearts, then whatever we do will be fine. The only punishment we might suffer at the end of our lives or in our lives is that we might not receive a trophy or two. That is not the way. A person has to change themselves with the help of the good Spirit. This is a works righteousness I'm talking about. Turn around. You start doing good works on a regular basis, and you will continue to do so, as you've learned by rote, because it feels better than perversity. The next level, third level, is a second-year novice. Again, from the community rule. Then when he has completed 1 year in the midst of the community, the many shall consider his case concerning the intelligence. Maybe I did this already. Yeah, no, I haven't. Consider the intelligence and deeds with regard to the Torah. And if fate decrees that he approach the company of the Yahad, following the decision of the priests and the majority of the members of their covenant, his property and also his wages shall be handed over to the overseer of the revenues of the many. But it shall be inscribed to his credit and shall not be spent to the profit of the many. So at the beginning of the second year, he comes in. Now he must turn his sustenance over to the community, yet they won't touch it until another year has gone by. Is this what John's teaching? This is definitely a road out of perversity, because if you go through the 3 years, you become a ward of ultra holy people that are not holy for the sake of religion, but for the sake of the brothers and sisters all around who are being so tossed and turned by influences that are venal, that are mundane and demonic forces. Here is the chance to lead that life, a life of holiness, a life of goodness, a life of virtue and good deeds. Here's a chance. This ain't going to work for everybody. It didn't work for Josephus. He went, he had to leave. He came before the Yahad, we suppose, and he was rejected. Now, why would they reject him? He was ultra rich. His father was a high priest in Jerusalem. Why would they give him the boot? I don't know. All I know is when I read the Jewish War, we can see that Josephus, despite the fact that he's our only historian of that time, Jewish historian anyway, he was in collusion all the time with one party or the other. Finally, the fourth level, the professed member. He shall not touch the drink of the many until he has completed a second year in the midst of the members of the community. When he has completed the second year, they shall examine him according to the decision of the many. And if fate decrees that he approach the community again, he shall be regularly inscribed in the rank in the midst of his brethren in whatever concerns the Torah and justice and purity and the mingling of his property, and he may give his opinion to the community together with his judgment. What they're saying there is, the third year, his property is taken into the treasury of the Yahad to be taken care of by the Leviticals that are assigned to that duty. And look, he doesn't make this investment without having his own responsibility and authority. He comes into the Yahad as a member that can speak his mind, that can give his opinion, and that can stop the entire assembly as he talks for as long as he will, until he's done on any process or any subject available. So the usual interpretation here is that there are 4 levels of initiation into the council. Every man from Israel, or every person born in Israel who wanted to begin the initiation process, was examined by the overseer of the Levites, or the many, to determine if he was capable of being instructed in the first place. If found capable, the overseer brought him into the covenant, which including the taking of an oath. Now, this is the new covenant in the land of Damascus. I'm often asked or told that the covenant is a renewed covenant. And some people have actually taken the scriptures in the Old Testament in their Bible translation, taken the word Kodesh out and put in the word renewed, a renewed covenant. This is a new covenant. This is not a renewed covenant. However, it takes into consideration the covenant between Moshe and Israel. It takes that into consideration, but to that must be added rights and wrongs for a new generation. Both the community rule and the Damascus document and every other rule, it's prefaced by the idea that when you have new people, when you have a new teacher, when you have new mundane, new culture, we'll put it that way. When the culture has changed some, that rule has to be changed along with it. It's a supplement, you see. And we say we can't add or subtract from the Torah. Well, that's nonsense. We find that in every ancient book. It always says, don't add or subtract from this, or something horrible is going to happen to you. Look, they had to live in community. They have given us a means of doing this if we want to. They all didn't do that. What I'm saying is we're in a different age today. We don't have a Jerusalem temple. We don't have sacrifices, thank goodness. We don't have that kind of stuff. Shouldn't we add to our rule that we do not sacrifice? The reason they didn't, of course, was because the temple was polluted. And they predicted the temple would be destroyed, as did Jesus in his Olivet Discourse. And, of course, he was accused. This man says he can destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Things are different today. We can't even go by this community rule of 2,000 years ago. We have to understand that we have the ability in the community, whether the community exists like this or before, to make certain moral and sociological rules. Hasn't our governments already made those rules? To some extent. Someplace it talks about, this is why we have a king, to have rules. Yes, Enola, you are absolutely right. Society is deteriorating. I am thinking that it is, the deterioration is necessary in order for the Father to fulfill what he's already told us about the seventh day. And that is that evil will be taken from the earth. Perversity will be taken. I think probably the worst of all of perversity is the economic perversity of the rich. We can't get by without them. We can't have a communist revolution. We know what happened in 1917 in October, and the outcome of that. It certainly is not what we want. However, the idea that we live in unity and economic unity, and those who have help those who have not, and those who have an abundance would help those that have nothing. It's not a matter of legislation. This is a matter of conscience. And if you don't have the conscience, you are not going to fulfill what the Father wants you to. Take a look. A lot has been said today. Oh, I'm off the subject now. I'm almost done. I'm way off the subject. So much is said today about the Clinton Foundation. It blows my mind. I went to see that movie, Hillary's America. There was no untruth in that movie, no slander. It was all true. I checked a lot of it out myself. Her foundation is a cash cow for her and Bill. They have used their offices to enrich themselves to such an incredible degree that they will not take less than $250,000 for a 1-hour speech, for instance. They've gotten to that level. The problem with that is they have not gotten to that level in a fashion pleasing to our Father in heaven. They have gotten to that level through sin, collusion, corruption. And now the little percent that goes to any charity at all is insignificant to that which has come back to enrich them personally. Now I heard today, I don't know if this is true, but I would suspect it is, that the Bill Gates Foundation is the same way. It's set up as a tax shelter, but is used as a cash cow. Well, Bill Gates is hiring foreigners that are outside of this language and culture and boundaries, undercutting the salaries of Americans, a point where these foreigners can live with this, but the rest of us who have been brought up in this culture cannot. Maybe the Indians are the new Essenes. I don't know. I know in dealing with Haiti for all these years, when we educate a child in Haiti, it's their dream to get to America, to get to Orlando or to Miami, because all they have to do is get a job as a dishwasher and live together in one apartment, like a commune, and send their money back home and keep just enough for them to live. Is that bad? I don't know. I'm still up in the air about it. But as an Essene, I want the highest and best outcome for all people concerned. What's best for all? What's best for all is teshuvah, first off. Coming to the end of yourself, to the end of your lifestyle, especially if you're well enriched. Take charge of your own charity. Know what you're doing with your money if you are enriched. We look at James, the Epistle of James. He practically damns the rich. They had taken over the synagogue, according to him. They'd come in and they were given the best seats. Why? The offering, taking the offering. It's the same way in church today. And shouldn't that be the way it should be? No, it shouldn't. A person should be guided by conscience. Remember, people give in proportion to what they earn. If you are the poor widow that gives the mite, it's all she had. Or the rich one that comes into church, for instance, and gives a $20 bill once in a while. I appreciate the donors that we have here. I appreciate them. We appreciate them. We have been able to do so much. Now I'm going to get in the last 5 minutes about doing so much. I didn't get far with that, but I feel this is good. We've been trying to get this movement going for years. In January, we got a group together. We called it Second Sukkot at first. And then we called it a boot camp. And by golly, it was a boot camp. It's here in Vero Beach. At that time, we had a crisis together. We worked through that crisis and came out as a unified group. And we decided to put this together as an organization. This is in January. This is 8 months ago. 8 months ago. None of us in this Yahad have anything. The ones that donate will not join. I don't understand that. But as long as they donate, because look at what we've done. Not only did we have Sukkot last year, it's coming up this year. We're having it again, not in Vero Beach, but in Virginia. We had a boot camp in January that established this as an organization. Then in May, we promised another one. Am I missing any here? We promised another one in May. Yeah, Hohenwald, Tennessee. That took an amazing amount of effort and funds. Where did they come from? People sticking money in pockets when we got there. We had no money at all. It wasn't a matter of money. It was a matter of doing the will of Yahweh. We have a boot camp there that shakes everybody up. And that's what it's supposed to do. Who's going to stick? Who's not? We don't want people that are not going to stick. We don't want contentious people. We don't want people that are involved in illegal activities. We want people that aspire to a higher commitment to our creation, our fellow humanity, and our friends, the animals. Yes, you heard it from me. No, I haven't been reading the Gospel of the Holy 12. That's what the amelioration of creation is all about. We did this in May, and then we just did one in Douglas. We had a symposium in Douglas last month. Why is it skipping my mind? Help me out here. August. It was this month. No.
Beginning of this month.
The beginning of this month. Can you believe it? Yeah. It's the beginning of this month. It was a beautiful event.
No, our August one is coming up.
No, wait a minute.
No, we had.
No, August.
We're all confused.
Yeah. It's like
At least a month ago.
Two seniles here. August, a beautiful convocation.
Right.
It was wonderful. And we weren't like-minded. We were heavenly minded. We've had Teshuvah there. It was wonderful. We were told over and over again, that couldn't possibly happen. You don't have the money for that. You got nothing. What's the catch? $51 for 5 nights, lodging and food. What's the catch? Plus a youth program. There was no catch. The idea is we want to get as many people together as we can to come into this new understanding, the new covenant in the land of Damascus. Not the same as the old covenant. Not the same. And now, we thought we'd never be able to do anything again. Again, because of the money. And now we're going to Charlottesville for Sukkot. Now we've done a full year of stuff. Nothing. in the bank accounts. Nothing. But you know what? Yah has been extremely faithful. I'll just tell you about my own self in this. I got to have these people from Facebook and other places come here last year in October. And in May, I had opportunities to go to Kansas City, Tulsa, to North Carolina, to Raleigh, Greensboro, do meetings, a bunch of meetings around Raleigh. It was wonderful. And go right straight down to Douglas, Georgia. And I didn't even have to teach there but once or twice. Now some people are coming to the fore to do this, so they've got knowledge and wisdom, and they're young. Let them go when they make mistakes. They're young. Support them. Tell them you're praying for them. You know who they are. Then we go to Tennessee, up to the top of the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Speaking up there to groups as far away as Iowa. We go up there twice. The second time we do boot camp there. I mentioned we went up there. We went to Paducah, Kentucky to a group. Where else did we go? We did, listen to Shroomkoff's journal out there on jspresents.org. He'll tell you everywhere we went. Now, having the opportunity to go to Colorado, to go to Winnipeg, stay at 3 weeks at Winnipeg, teaching spiritual gifts. Now, that's a wonderful thing for a guy in the lowest level of holiness. And going over to Virginia. Greensboro.
Rico.
Charlottesville.
Rico.
What?
You ministered to Rico in Greensboro.
Oh, yeah. Ministering to Rico in High Point in Greensboro. I'll never forget that.
Part of it.
Virginia. I got an invitation out to Salem, Oregon yesterday. I'm excited about that opportunity. Bob. Going back to Tulsa after Sukkot with an event with the guy that's been my intellectual hero for 25 years, Robert Eisenman. The possibility of doing something with him before I die just is incredible. I don't have any money to do this stuff. Somebody out there has come through at the last moment every time. It's just amazing. I just see it as the Father taking care of my finances because why? I have been faithful. And you can be faithful too. You can step out of that situation. If you're in a wretched situation or you are in a place where you feel like you want to minister, it doesn't make any difference what problems or handicaps or family you have. Make up your mind. Shuv. Change your mind. You got something to give. If you don't have money, fine. Who cares? What you have is an Elohim-given spark within you that can turn into a fire if you just let it. Now look, Wesley, he was called the brand plucked from the fire because when he was a boy, he lived in a house with his priest father and his mother and 10 to 17 children in his house. The house caught fire one night. Everybody got out but him. He was up in an upper floor window of this crude house. I've seen it in England. And they were able to snatch him out of the second floor window with the flames to his back. A brand snatched out of the fire, and that brand changed the entire history of England in the 18th century. Wesley said this: if you don't have faith, preach faith till you have it. He also said, I'm like a fire. I'm going to burn and the people are going to come and watch me. And indeed he did. In cemeteries, in vacant lots, in back of funeral homes, in peat bogs, they came. They came and they kept coming until the entirety of the English culture changed and avoided what would have been a decimating civil war. Look what's happening in our time. What did Wesley do? He re-educated the perverse, using what they knew as a diving board, taking the songs out of the tavern and putting new words to them, taking his message, which was different from the Church of England. This is a message of experiential faith, taking it to the lowest regions and the lowest people that he could, like John the Baptist, going out among the perverse. And he did this for 70-some years. Died at a very old age and spent everything he had and all his time changing the world. Look, this is what we need to do. This is what it means to reveal the elect of Yahweh and to ameliorate creation, while at the same time staying, insofar as we can, unspotted by the world. And that's it. John the Baptist, his successor, is something better than him. Our successors will be something better. We're on a parallel course with that time, a parallel course. This is the last day, but it's not a last day of punishment and fire falling. This is a day of restoration. This is a day of Elijah. This is a day where we need to get together as one and speak according to Teshuvah and help as many people as we can come into the knowledge of what it means to be a healer of humanity and all creation. Some of the Essenes in Egypt, of course, were called therapeutai. We read about them in Josephus. Therapeutai means healers. Now, they segregated themselves out of the community. They segregated themselves into different sexes, and they discussed wise things. Was that enough? They discussed spiritual things, but was that enough? What we're not told is that they helped anybody or tried to bring anybody into a new understanding of what life and the world is all about, and how one might aspire to ascending above this world with the intention of helping it, even in supernatural ways. Oh, my time's gone now. I'm sorry, I kept you over 15 minutes. But we'll continue on tomorrow with more of New Testament characters in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we'll try to go on a little farther than this. I hope we made it, if not interesting for you, soul-searching. That's more important. Thank you for coming. Let's see if there's any things out here that we need to address. Yes, Enola, you're right on. Right on. Now, what you going to do about it? We're going to find out. Thank you for coming. Yahweh be with you. I'll see you tomorrow. We've got a service at 11 o'clock. Anybody you know who's preaching? Brad Brink, maybe?
Allison, I think, is doing the
Allison.
doing the liturgy.
Okay. 11 o'clock a.m. I'm going to go over to the synagogue tomorrow. And so I'm not going to be on probably at 11 o'clock, but I'll see you at 3:33 if you want to come back, and we'll continue this. All right?
Thanks very much, Jackson. Very moving message.
Thank you, and good night.
Is there someone wanted to stay on?
Yeah, I'm going. Oh, Allison's on. Good. I wanted to talk to Mary about her motorhome.
Oh.
Hey, Jack.
Hi, brother.
Hello. Real quick. Daniel's preaching tomorrow.
Okay, good.
How are we going to do the meeting? Are you going to put it up so we can get in, or how's that supposed to work out? You said you're going to the synagogue tomorrow.
I think that didn't I send you the credentials for it?
You did at one time, actually. I'm just leery to use them, but
Why?
no, that's just not something I usually do. But I do remember that what your email is and what your password is, because it's the same password you use on that you gave us to use actually on what's it called on the conference center.
None of them are the same.
Never.
No, they're not. It's not the same.
Okay, they're not.
No.
I remember seeing it somewhere. I thought it was the same. I thought it was.
I've got a different password on everything.
That's good. That's the way it should be.
But I have a formula for putting that password together, so I don't have to look them up.
Gotcha.
And so, let's see. How do I do? Quit giving out my secrets, Commander. Well, I think you should run it. I might be back by then, but I doubt it. I think this goes till noon. I promised Rabbi Naif that I would come.
Oh, what's going on over there?
Nothing.
Dan Naif.
And
I remember him.
yeah, he's a good guy, but he's just a little misdirected. That's all.
Well, send that to me then, and I'll run it. Of course, like I said, hosting it is an issue because they have not made all the host features accessible yet. So,
Governor, I'll
Yes, sir.
I'll try to host it from over there. And if I can't, I should be able to. If I can't, then we'll do something else.
but yeah, I actually talked to the Zoom people about fixing these things so that this won't be an issue in the future. And they're pretty responsive, so I hope they're working on it. They haven't released any updates, so but hopefully they will. They're working on it, and because they did seem to hear me, so we'll see what happens with that. And I hope they do fix it so that.
And I'll send you the credentials again.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right, I guess then I will be.
See you later.
Yep. Let's get off here.
There's Allison Gary.
Hey,
All
all
right.
right, can you hear me?
You
Doing
got it,
good.
man.
Hey, I'm gonna go on a little scout tomorrow. Anything you want pictures of over at the
Yeah.
site we're going to?
I want
Anything in particular?
of the outside.
Okay.
Oh, so someplace that's as far enough away to get the whole thing in there, or various pictures of the outside. Whatever you can get, yes, I want.
Okay. And They were talking about the room where you could get internet on hardwire. I'm going to try to get a picture of those kind of facilities too, just for you.
Yeah.
And whatever else they'll let me take, I'm going to take my Wi-Fi box, see what the reception is, just in case we want remote, in the barn or something.
Great.
Okay.
Got to talk to everybody that.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to their people too, as they come in. Get a feel for them. People in this group.
Allison, what he's saying is make sure you take the large size M&Ms so you can share with everybody and make friends.
I have lots of goodies as a bribe. I'm not completely stupid. If you don't want to be killed, you bring an offering.
There you go.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Love you.
Love y'all too. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mary, you're being recorded.
I am.
Yes.
Here, let me take these headphones off. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, can hear you.
Oh, okay. I had headphones on. I couldn't hear anything back. I couldn't hear you, in other words. So, okay. Still there?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about?
So we were going to talk about well, now that I'm not under the anointing anymore.
That was really good tonight, by the way. Those are exactly what you were talking about. Was exactly what one of my conversations was with you pretty recently about, the condition that I found myself in, why I wasn't bothered or worried about that. And I felt like it was the right thing for me because, if I had not been where I have been lately, I wouldn't have been drawn to the studies that I have been involved in. And that's part of where I have been is trying to become more disciplined and being in Teshuvah. And that's been awesome because I've been discovering on YouTube some of the things that you put up on your site, some of the lost books, and it's really turned my thinking around. So it was all part of his plan. So that was really, really good tonight.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Or it's just where I'm heading in that direction.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
How about
another thing, what we wanted to do was to tomorrow to ordain you.
Well, do you think this is the right time? Because I'm still I'm still in recuperation mode.
We need you on there. We need you on the meetings.
Okay. I mean, I just feel like I want to be able to be valuable in helping somehow, and I just don't see how I can right now.
Well, you can assert your wisdom into some of the discussions that are coming up. That's what you can do.
Well, I enjoy being with the group, so at least I can kind of feel my way along right now.
What do you think about your recovery? Do you think you'll be recovered enough by the end of September?
I think so. I mean, actually, when I saw the surgeon, he said that my healing was faster than he had expected.
Mm-hmm.
He had first said that there would be no weight bearing for 10 weeks. That was the day after surgery. Then I saw him in 2 weeks later, and he said he took another x-ray, and he said that all the pins and everything were still in place. Nothing had moved or, gotten jostled around there. And that the healing time, he believed, would not be 8 weeks out now, because, 2 weeks had elapsed, but rather 4 weeks. So I see him again September the 12th, and hopefully I'll be released to be able to walk. So now what day? I couldn't hear you because you kind of like went in and out. What day is the Sukkot there?
5th
The 5th of September?
October.
October. Well, that very well may be. It's just hard for me to say right now, but I'm hopeful that I'll be ready to, to be a lot more mobile than I am now. Maybe enough that I could be, walking on my own. I sure hope so, because boy, this is tough trying to to rely on a walker, because I can't put any weight down on that leg right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm taking boron, and they gave me a test for bone density the other day, and they called me back and said, well, you have osteoporosis, but we don't want you to take any of that. You don't need to do anything. And I said, well, if I have osteoporosis now in my bones, why don't I need to take anything? And she said, are you taking any D and vitamin and calcium? And I am, but it's in the form of boron. And I didn't tell her boron. I just said, yes. So she said, well, whatever you're doing, the test shows that it's strong, so don't do anything else. Just keep doing what you're doing. So boron is the answer, in that regard, to build up your bones, no matter how much in osteoporosis you're in. If you take boron, it builds them up, makes them strong. They said that cadavers, they can barely even saw through them, people who take high amounts of boron. Some of those people, interestingly enough, are from Israel, because there's a lot of boron content in their soil. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to use boron in my gasoline.
Well, I can tell, it's a very easy way to get boron in your system. It's very, very cheap, and I make it myself, and I put it in these little vials, and I take about a tablespoon of it a day. So I'm going to continue taking it too, because I don't want to break another bone. I don't want to go down that pathway of disease with brittle bones,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the answer is I don't know the answer. I'm just relying on their tests to see, and as well as my own strength to see. But I just have to be careful to try to follow these orders, because I don't want to start bearing weight and compromise those screws or anything. And he did say that in 6 months, if the screws in the metal, whatever, becomes a bother, they can take it out very easily, and it's not like a surgery like I had before.
Mm-hmm.
He said it's a much easier removal process. So I was really happy about that, because I don't want to live with that in my knee, in my leg either. So hopefully, that's the 12th I'll see him, and if I can start walking by then yeah, that gives me 3 more weeks. And if I'm not in perfect condition, I'm sure that there's a place that I can stay without being in a tent situation. I think you said that tonight.
Right inside there, they have lodging.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to be there. I don't want to miss the Coke this year. And this is in Virginia, right?
Yes.
Is it West Virginia or just Virginia?
Just Virginia.
Okay, so I could actually the airport is close by?
Well, there's one right there.
Okay.
Charlottesville maps.
Okay.
It's close to D.C.
Yeah.
Let's see. They live outside of there. I'm not remembering exactly the name of the little burg. I'll know it if I see it. I'm looking at the map right now.
Yeah. But it's close though.
Well, you got an international airport there.
Yeah. Well, then that's perfect.
Here it is, Palmyra.
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 Palmyra sounds like, yeah, a woman's name. Palmyra, like an old-fashioned woman's name. Come on, Palmyra.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Okay, so if I give a thumbs up, then I can start making arrangements after that day, after the 12th, and that still gives me plenty of time to call Frontier and try to get one of those wonderful flights. I mean, how can you beat that?
Well, I'm sure having a... They change prices, looks like constantly. I've been looking flights here and there and everywhere. And you just got to get them when you see them.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, and they say that those prices change from all day long. They're constantly changing from morning to night. You can look at it at 8 a.m. and 11. It's a whole different price. So I think that's the trick of it. Is just kind of staying on top of it.
For sure.
They haven't said anything. Frontier hasn't said anything about discontinuing those kind of blown out prices, have they? Fares?
No.
Okay, then they still offer them.
You might check Richmond too, because it looks like Richmond is also close enough to go get somebody.
Yeah.
Probably be more. I'm going to check that.
Okay.
Who would have thought? Everybody wants to be in Virginia.
How did that come about anyway? I never knew how that. Who's there that that's offered the space for that?
It's hold on just a second.
Okay.
Okay. I'm doing like two conversations at the same time only because I have to.
Okay. Let me know when you're free.
I'm free. I'm done.
Okay. So anyway, whose place is it that we're going to?
We're going to the Wiggle Homestead.
The Wiggle Homestead.
Wiggle Homestead.
Oh, that's the young couple, right?
Yes.
Okay, I remember some communication that I've read with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
They're very good.
Yeah. Is it their house or?
They have. Excuse me. They've got a couple acres with a farmhouse and a great big barn. Now they have remodeled this entire barn for feasts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. They
Now,
got
is this
everything in there.
Is this couple the one that's actually moved their camper or something onto their friend's acreage while they build or something?
I don't know. I don't know
I
anything.
thought I thought I read that somewhere, but maybe that's somebody else. But yeah, okay, that's good. So
I'm
it's all
gonna
set
some
up.
pictures here pretty soon. I'm going to get some pictures tomorrow.
Yeah, I heard the guy saying that.
Right now,
That's
there's a website. Well, you saw that with the main information there.
the website. No, the ones that you sent us tonight on Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, I just haven't opened them up because I was afraid if I did, I would lose. You know,
Okay.
yeah, that I'd be bumped off Zoom. Okay, so that sounds good. And I guess I can get more details as we go along. So let's see, what else was the news? You know, when I talked to you the other day, it was the other morning around 10 something, I think. I looked on my phone and that it was the 24th that we spoke. That was a Wednesday. And I could have sworn you said, okay, well, look, I'm going to call you at 9 a.m. And I didn't say anything, but I was thinking to myself, gee, that's early for you. But I didn't. And then you told me later tonight that you I guess you were referring to tonight, but you said tomorrow. But it doesn't matter. I guess I was just wanting to know
Yes.
how I was supposed to get on Zoom, and I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Yesterday, I was going to call,
Yeah,
and what happened to me?
I don't know.
I ended up at my mother's last night.
Yeah. Oh, how's she doing?
She's got a broken pelvis.
Oh, that's right. Jane told me. Jane called to tell me that. I was so sorry to hear that.
Been a lot
To
of
to imagine the suffering that she went through, and she didn't even know her pelvis was broken.
didn't even know it.
Yeah, for weeks. Jane said. Poor thing. So how's she doing now? I mean, okay. What could they do?
They're wanting to. What they wanted to do was glue the pelvis up. But see, my niece is a doctor or a nurse practitioner.
Uh-huh.
And my niece said, no, 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 I'm coming over there. So she's on her way over here right now to direct my mother's care.
Oh, okay. Is that a good thing? Do you trust her?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do trust her.
Well, good then. Is there other options for her? I mean, I was thinking, pelvis, and from there I thought, well, what could they do? Body casts. What in the world would they possibly do? But, technology is so far advanced from the time that my sister got in that terrible wreck years ago when they put her in a body cast. I'm sure that's not the way that they would go now. They could probably go in there with a less kind of intense surgery and get that all fixed up for her.
Yeah,
Not so invasive.
I don't know. I thought probably the gluing up would be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know. Well, maybe your niece can give her different, give her options and let her decide from there. But poor thing, she must be in some kind of pain.
Yes, she is.
Did you stay with her overnight to keep her company?
No, I got. Did you meet Chris Plurd, one of the Yahad elders from before?
I don't recall. I don't remember meeting him.
Well, Chris Plurd moved in over there.
Moved in with your mom. Okay, well, Jane did mention that someone was living there with her, someone that she knew and she trusted. And I told her that I thought that was a great thing. That was wonderful. Because she needs to have someone there with her.
Sure.
She's been through so much and she's older. And if she should fall or, pass out, she would have, I mean, how would anybody know?
They wouldn't. I
Right.
drive down there every day, but nobody would know.
Right.
But Crispy's there now, so that'll be good.
Yeah. So you put the newsletter out today, right?
Nope.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay.
I had to get, before I do things like that, I have to get the preliminaries taken care of. I got to put up a web page of some kind, and I've got to get, well, there's all this other internet stuff that has to be done before. If you just send that out, you don't have some place to take them. If you don't have a registration form, then, you get somebody that wants to do it right off the bat. They don't have a way to do it, and so they forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
You have to make it easy for people. Yeah. So what about the RV? Did you talk to somebody that wants to buy it outright?
No.
I really should have put that in my name, but I didn't, because I bought it and I drove it that first day to the big park, the big motorhome park here. And there it sat. It sat there for 8 months. Then we drove it from there. I mean, I kept insurance on it, but we drove it from there to Huntsville. I stayed in that place for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And then one place closer to Carly's house for a couple of months. So all totaled, it was about a year, being in the RV. But, it just cost so much to title it in your name. I just kept thinking, well, I'll just do it later. Why do I need to do it now? I'm not driving it. It's not on the road. I didn't plan on selling it then. But I have the title from the person that we bought it from, with all the, all the paperwork. So it shouldn't be hard. It would be just like anybody else buying it from him. Right?
Yes.
As long as I haven't signed anything on that title, then it would just, the person that's buying it would just put it in put it in their name, and that would be all there'd be to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm really I'm just so looking forward to the Sukkot. There's so many different Sukkots. You notice that with the different calendars people are keeping. One September. Well, I mean, there's several in September.
Yeah, for
Some
sure.
early. Yeah, some is in early October. And I figured I'm just going to stick with one and go with that,
Yes.
and not worry about, following the directives of what the Jews do today.
No.
Jews are so far off and
Right.
so many ways. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can't trust it because of all the different dispersions. I mean, from what I'm reading, they came out of one dispersion with calendation there, and then one, I think the Roman had 8 days in it, didn't it?
They had different times, 10 days, 8 days, 7 days.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the Jews were forced to follow those, their ordinances of the day, the laws of that day.
Not
So
really.
I think it's been lost, and even a scripture says that I've hidden my Shabbat from you. So I think that we just have to find a day that we feel strongly committed to and just stick with it instead of wavering back and forth and back and forth.
Well, the Shabbat is on Saturday, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
As far as the Jews, no, they didn't have to do it. That's why we had wars in the Jewish wars, because there were so many not willing to do it, but see their leaders compromised. Same with today. Our leaders have compromised with these foreign powers to the point
Yes.
this country is ready for a rebellion.
Mm-hmm. So true. How many people are you expecting for the Sukkot? How many are on board with it already, or that you know of?
I don't know anybody that is.
Oh,
I haven't. I'm just putting it up.
okay.
What's
Are you
that?
doing some
Is that a
work on the
cartoon?
computer? Hmm?
Is that a cartoon I'm listening to?
Yeah. Yeah, Mo was in here. Mo is the only child here tonight, and she was in here earlier when I was on the phone with you. I mean, on the Zoom. So I put it on something for her to watch. The kids, I've gotten them away from watching these well shows that they have for kids now. If you've been in any kind of environment to catch any of that, they're just based on humanistic just crap. I mean, teaching these kids to talk smart mouth and dress like, whatever. It's totally against everything we try to teach them. So I watch cooking shows with them, and I watch Fixer Upper it's called. The houses that they fix up and resell and whatever. My little granddaughter was the 8-year-old was saying to me, honey, you're right. She said, I was watching one of those shows the other day, and she said I could see how uh, how rude the kids were to their parents. And she said, I don't want to be like that. So she said I turned it to the cooking show. So that's good. I'm trying to influence them the best way I can. You're on the computer, aren't you?
I'm just sitting here at the computer. Yeah.
Okay, was that it? I mean, did you want to talk, or did you want to wrap it up, or? But I just want to tell you again, that was just the best that in line with where I am, where my heart is, and I just appreciate hearing all of it tonight. It was like, wow, I just wonder if the people who are listening are also feeling that urgency to separate themselves from the world, because we don't, unless we do a whole lot of teshuva, we don't see our hearts, and we don't see the things about ourselves that other people do. And pride is the biggest thing.
Well, lady, I think again, if we get our directives straight and do the best we can whenever we have an opportunity, and that's all the better we can do.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I've made my focus is just there. Not on any other, I don't have any other agendas or any other thing that's pressing for me right now. It's really just get more in line with what I know he wants for me. And I know, again, that he had to bring me to a place. How I see it now, and these videos somehow brought me to a place to see the New Jerusalem inside myself, and myself as a sort of high priest to protect that New Jerusalem. So the thoughts that I have, the way that we as human beings want to get our way, we want to get back at someone that's done harmful things or said harmful things to us, being in a place of humility, all those things, you have to think about it all day long. You do. You have to think about it all day long to be in that place. So the way that I do it, the way that I'm learning to do it, is to visualize that I'm the high priest of, he says the kingdom is in us. And if that's true, then we have to protect that. Because what the mind thinks, the soul takes.
It's supposed to be an organic system. And I suppose that what we need to be able to do is continue to come together, even though we're remote. We need to continue to strive forward and try to find the kind of training we need for such endeavors as this.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you said, it's about growing to a place where we can impact others around us. It's not just about us receiving good things. It's about impacting the world around us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow you said you're going to be on at 3:30, so that means 2:30 my time, or 3:33, however. And that'll be the third part of this of that study, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You going to a temple tomorrow?
I was
Or to
thinking
synagogue?
about it. I got invited.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Is it a messianic organization,
Yeah,
congregation? Yeah.
people that spawned off of us. Yeah.
Have you been invited to speak or
No.
just invited to go there as a guest?
Yeah, he'll probably have me say some words, but he knows I'm rabidly anti-rabbinical.
Yeah.
Just, I got this guy set up to do this, which I'm happy about. We don't have any messianic stuff here at all.
Right.
And besides, the guy's a good friend of mine. He just is. His family had rabbinical friends when he was growing up, and when his parents would go on vacations, they would leave them with the rabbinical friends, and they went to services and stuff, and he was greatly influenced by that. I gotta get something to eat.
Right. You're getting something to eat?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go find something to eat.
Go scrounge up something. Okay.
I'm starving.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go then, and I guess we'll catch up Saturday, tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll hear you on there. I won't be on after, but I'll hear you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that
thank you.
you're going to be well by the end of the month.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. Let's see. By the 12th is when he releases me, I guess. So if that's true, even if I have to have a little assistance, I don't know. I mean, I can't really use crutches, and I don't want to get on a crutch. Those things feels too unstable for me. You imagine those things slipping out from underneath you, and all your weight's on it. That's too scary. But I think I'll be able to walk. I mean, it may be slowly, but but that's okay.
He could get you one of those things with the two wheels and the stick coming up.
The two wheels and the stick. Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are great little useful tools. I mean, they're using those in the high school, or not high schools, in junior high school and high schools. The principals and vice principals are using them to go up and down the corridors, which I think is a good plan. It's a lot of walking these people do all day. But those are useful if you have large areas to ride around in. I think it'll be okay.
What do you
I'll just get me a wheelchair and you can push me around.
Okay. You and me will both be in wheelchairs.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
I can't even go to walk around the grocery anymore. I've got to get carts.
Yeah. Well, it's like the blind leading the blind, huh?
Yeah.
So are you feeling better? You feeling okay?
I've been feeling great the last couple of weeks.
Good.
Yeah, really good.
Okay. Are you doing anything different?
No. I got to go in next week and get a defibrillator put in, though. I'm not.
Oh, you have decided to do that?
Well, they said you need this if you're going to be traveling some in order to have an insurance policy or.
Yeah, you were telling me that the other day that the doctor did tell you that you needed it, but you hadn't really
Yeah.
come you hadn't really made a real hard decision at that point. So I'm glad that you.
I don't feel like I need it, but if I go into something again, usually what happens to me is I just gradually go into a heart attack. I usually know it 2 weeks ahead of time,
Yeah.
and I can go in and get it fixed. But there is a possibility of just having complete blockage out of nowhere, and that would help with that, I guess. I just don't know too much about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a box in there. It's just not sexy.
Well, I know my aunt used to have one, and it was a big box. She had it in the upper part of her chest, like right below the clavicle,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see it, and you could certainly feel it. I mean, you could see the outline of it, but it was a big box, and your guy told you that they're much smaller now, right?
He's putting in the newest thing.
Yeah,
It's small.
yeah. So that might not be too bad, and you can have it removed if if your health improves to such a, miraculously improves and everything's flowing and going like it's supposed to go, you could have it removed
Yeah.
if you just felt uncomfortable with it. But you're right, it does give you a little more sense of security and some insurance that if something goes wrong, then that's what it's there for, is to kind of jump start it again, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, and you said it was just a real short surgery, like a very easy kind of surgery, in and out of there?
Oh, yeah. He says you come in the morning and you leave at noon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that doesn't sound too terribly bad.
No, it's not going to be bad. They just cut you open, put the thing in, then
Yeah.
drill.
Glue you back together.
That's right.
Okay, well, look, let me let you go so you can go have dinner.
Okay.
We'll catch up tomorrow.
Mary,
Okay?
you're a good girl, all right?
All right, I'll try to be.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.